Good morning, amazing LullNow community. Wishing you a fantastic new day filled with vibrant energy and moments as bright as the morning sun. Today, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this video. What did you love and what could we do better? Drop your feedback in the comments below. Your input means the world and helps us make the channel even better. If you're vibing with the stories and energy of LullNow, don't forget to hit that like button to show some love and subscribe. I'm Emma Carter, 22 years old, and I don't believe in ghosts. At least I didn't until last month. I'm not the kind of person who goes looking for trouble. I'd rather be curled up with a true crime podcast or sketching in my notebook. But when my younger brother, Liam, started rambling about strange lights flickering in the forest behind our house, I couldn't ignore it. He's 16, full of wild ideas and obsessed with urban legends. Normally, I'd brush him off, but this time, his story stuck with me. Maybe because the forest, Blackthorn Woods, has always felt wrong. Blackthorn Woods sits on the edge of our sleepy little town, Willow Creek. It's the kind of place where kids dare each other to run in at night, only to come back pale and silent. The townsfolk have stories, voices in the wind, shadows that move without a source, and a cursed temple buried deep inside. They say the old mill in the woods, abandoned for decades, belongs to the devil himself. My dad, a practical man who runs the local hardware store, dismisses it all as nonsense. "Stay out of the woods," he'd say, his voice sharp. "Nothing good comes from poking around in there." My mom, though, is different. She'd get this faraway look when the woods came up, muttering about old friends who used to live near the mill. They were good people, she'd say, but her hands would tremble. 3 weeks ago, trouble found us. A local hunter named Tom Grayson went missing in Blackthorn Woods. He was a tough guy, the kind who could track a deer through a blizzard. When his truck was found abandoned near the forest's edge, the police searched for days. They found his rifle, scratched and bent, but no body. Sheriff Daniels, a man who'd rather write speeding tickets than solve mysteries, called it a bear attack. Case closed, but I wasn't buying it. Liam and I snuck out to the spot where Tom's truck was found, and that's when I saw them, symbols carved into the bark of an oak tree. They weren't random scratches. They were precise, like someone had taken a knife and etched a pattern, a 5-pointed star inside a circle, with strange runes curling around it. Under the moonlight, the carvings glowed faintly, then faded. I blinked, thinking I'd imagined it, but Liam grabbed my arm. "You saw that, right?" he whispered, his eyes wide. That night, I couldn't sleep. Those symbols haunted me. I sketched them in my notebook, trying to make sense of them. They weren't like anything I'd seen in Willow Creek's history books or online forums. The more I thought about it, the more questions piled up. Why would a hunter like Tom vanish without a trace? What were those symbols? And why did the forest feel like it was watching me? I wasn't just curious. I was hooked. I had to know what was going on, not just for Tom, but for myself. I'd spent my whole life in Willow Creek, feeling like I was meant for something bigger. Maybe this was it. Maybe I could uncover a truth no one else dared to touch. Liam, of course, was all in. "We're like detectives now," he said, grinning as he packed a backpack with flashlights and a pocket knife. I rolled my eyes but didn't argue. He was my shadow, always tagging along, and I didn't want him sneaking into the woods alone. Besides, I needed someone to bounce ideas off, even if his theories were straight out of a horror movie. "What if it's aliens?" he suggested one night. "Or a cult. Bet they're doing rituals in that temple." I laughed, but the mention of the temple sent a chill down my spine. The townsfolk whispered about it, a crumbling stone structure hidden in the heart of Blackthorn Woods, older than the town itself. Some said it was a place of worship for forgotten gods. Others claimed it was a gateway to hell. Either way, it was tied to the mill, and the mill was tied to the Harts. The Harts were a name I'd heard growing up, always in hushed tones. They were an old family, tied to the mill before it was abandoned. Mom used to talk about them like they were kin, but Dad shut her down every time. "They're trouble," he'd snap. "Stay away from anything Hart-related." I never understood why until I overheard Mom on the phone a week after Tom's disappearance. She was talking to someone, her voice low. "He's back, isn't he? After all these years?" I couldn't hear the other side, but her words stuck with me. Who was he? And why did it sound like she was scared? The answer came on a crisp October afternoon when the leaves were turning blood red and the air smelled of damp earth. I was sitting on our porch, sketching the forest's edge, when I saw him, a figure stepping out from the trees. He was tall, lean, with messy dark hair and eyes that seemed to pierce right through me. My heart skipped a beat, not just because he was striking, but because there was something off about him. He moved with a quiet grace, like a predator, and when he stopped at the forest's edge, he looked straight at me. I froze, my pencil hovering over the page. For a moment it felt like the world narrowed to just us, his gaze pulling me in like a magnet. Then Mom burst out the front door, her face lighting up. "Elliot!" she called, rushing to him. "Oh, Elliot Hart, it's been too long!" Elliot Hart. The name hit me like a shockwave. He was a Hart, the last of them, living alone in the old mill. Mom dragged him inside, chattering about old times, while I sat there, my mind racing. Why was he here? What did he know about the woods? And why did I feel like he was the key to everything? I slipped inside, pretending to grab a glass of water, but really, I was eavesdropping. Mom was in the kitchen, her voice warm but strained. "You've grown so much, Elliot. How's the mill? Are you managing okay?" Elliot's voice was deep, smooth, with a hint of something guarded. "It's quiet," he said. "But I came to tell you. My uncle passed. I thought you should know." "Uncle?" I didn't know the Harts had anyone left besides Elliot. Mom's gasp pulled me closer to the door. "Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice cracking. "How did it happen?" Elliot paused, and when he spoke, his tone was flat. "He went into the woods, didn't come back." My stomach twisted. Another disappearance, tied to the Harts, tied to the forest. I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to know more. I stepped into the kitchen, trying to act casual, but my eyes locked with Elliot's. He tilted his head slightly, a faint smile tugging at his lips, like he knew I'd been listening. "Emma, this is Elliot Hart," Mom said, oblivious to the tension. "His family and ours go way back." She rambled on about childhood memories, but I barely heard her. Elliot was watching me, his dark eyes unreadable but intense. I felt a pull, like he was daring me to ask the questions burning in my mind. "Sorry about your uncle," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "What happened to him?" Mom shot me a look, but Elliot didn't flinch. "Like I said, the woods took him," he replied, his words heavy with meaning. "It's a dangerous place." That was it. I knew then that Elliot was part of this, whether he was a victim or something else. I wasn't going to let it go. Over the next few days, I dug into everything I could find about Blackthorn Woods. Old newspaper clippings mentioned missing hikers, strange lights, and rumors of rituals at the temple. A blog post from a now-defunct paranormal site claimed the mill was built on a ley line, a hotspot for supernatural energy. The temple, it said, was older, maybe pre-Christian, tied to something called the Grey Veil. I didn't know what that meant, but it sounded bad. Liam, meanwhile, was compiling his own evidence, blurry photos of the forest, recordings of weird noises, and a map he'd drawn with the mill and temple marked. The more I learned, the more I realized I couldn't do this alone. Elliot was the missing piece. He lived in the mill, knew the woods, and had lost someone to whatever was out there. But he was also a Hart, and Dad's warnings echoed in my head. Could I trust him? I didn't know, but I had to find out. One evening, I caught him outside our house, standing at the forest's edge like he was waiting for me. "You're curious, aren't you?" he said, his voice low, almost teasing. "About the woods, about what happened." I crossed my arms, trying to hide how much he unnerved me. "I saw the symbols," I admitted, "and I know your uncle didn't just get lost. What's going on, Elliot?" He stepped closer, and I caught a faint scent of cedar and smoke. "You want answers?" he said. "Meet me at the mill tomorrow night, but bring something to protect yourself, a cross, a charm, whatever you believe in." His eyes flicked to my neck where I wore a silver pendant Mom had given me years ago. That might work. Before I could ask more, he turned and vanished into the trees, leaving me with a racing heart and a decision to make. I spent that night staring at my notebook, the symbols staring back. Liam was asleep, but I could hear his recorder playing faintly, capturing static and whispers. I didn't believe in curses or demons, but I believed in patterns. Tom Grayson, Elliot's uncle, the symbols, the lights, they were connected, and the temple was at the center of it all. I wasn't just chasing a mystery anymore. I was chasing the truth about Blackthorn Woods, about the hearts, and maybe about myself. Tomorrow, I'd step into the forest with Elliot Hart, not knowing if he was my ally or my biggest mistake. But one thing was clear: the woods were hiding something, and I was going to find it, no matter the cost. I am Silas Varn, and I am no demon. The fools in Willow Creek whisper about curses and devils, but they're too small-minded to grasp the truth. At 47, I've seen more than their entire town combined, secrets that would shatter their fragile little world. Blackthorn Woods is mine, not because I own it, but because I understand it. The mill, the temple, the whispers in the dark, they all answer to me. I've spent decades weaving a web so intricate that even the cleverest prey can't escape. And now, Emma Carter and Elliot Hart are walking right into it. From my perch in the shadows of the old mill, I saw her first, Emma, standing on her porch, sketching the forest like it was a puzzle she could solve. Her eyes, sharp and curious, caught the light in a way that almost made me pause. Almost. She's dangerous, not because she's strong, but because she's relentless. I've seen her kind before, young, hungry for answers, too stubborn to back down. That's why she's perfect. Her blood, untouched by the rituals that taint so many in this cursed place, is the key to unlocking the temple's true power. Not some demonic summoning, as the old tales claim, but a gateway to the Grey Vale, a realm where the trapped souls of the lost can grant immortality to those bold enough to claim it. Elliot Hart is another matter. He's 24, younger than I expected, but his blood carries the weight of his family's sins. The Harts were my tools once, back when his uncle Gideon thought he could outsmart me. Gideon was a fool, greedy for the power I promised. He helped me carve the symbols, light the fires, and open the first crack in the veil. But he got careless, tried to take it all for himself. He paid the price, not by my hand, but by the veil's. It doesn't forgive betrayal. Now Elliot's sniffing around, driven by a mix of grief and vengeance. He thinks I killed Gideon, and I'm happy to let him. It keeps him focused, keeps him angry, keeps him blind. Tonight I watched them from the mill's broken loft, my breath silent as the forest itself. Emma stood at the edge of her yard, her silver pendant glinting under the moon. Elliot emerged from the trees, his dark hair falling into his eyes as he spoke to her. I couldn't hear their words, but I saw the way she leaned toward him, the way he tilted his head like a wolf sizing up its prey. They're drawn to each other, and that's my advantage. Attraction is a leash, and I'll tug it when the time is right. I've already planted the seeds, glowing symbols on the trees, faint whispers in the wind, a flicker of light near the temple. Emma's seen them, and she's hooked. She thinks she's chasing a mystery, but she's chasing my design. The temple isn't what they think. The stories call it a place of devil worship, a shrine to some ancient evil. Lies, all of it. The temple is a door carved from stone older than this continent, etched with runes that hum with power. It leads to the Grey Vale, a place where time, phrase, and souls linger, caught between life and death. I found it 20 years ago when I was a younger man, broken by loss and desperate for meaning. The veil spoke to me, not in words, but in visions, promises of power, of life eternal. All it asked was a price, blood, pure and untainted, to widen the crack. I've tried before with others who wandered too close, but their blood was weak, their spirits unworthy. Emma's different. Her curiosity, her defiance, her untouched soul, they're exactly what I need. Elliot complicates things. His uncle's blood gave him a tie to the veil, a sensitivity to its pull. He feels it, even if he doesn't understand. That's why he's so dangerous. If he learns the truth, that the temple isn't a place of evil, but a gateway he could seal forever. He'll ruin everything. I can't let that happen. I've worked too hard, sacrificed too much. My wife, my daughter, they're gone, taken by this town's cruelty, and the veil is my only chance to outlive the pain. I'll be immortal, untouchable, while Willow Creek crumbles to dust. To keep Elliot in line, I've fed his anger. I left Gideon's journal in the mill, its pages filled with half-truths about a demon in the woods. I carved the symbols deeper, made the lights brighter, let the whispers grow louder. He thinks he's hunting me, but he's playing my game. Last night I stood outside the mill, hidden in the fog, as he rummaged through the attic. He found the journal just as I planned. His hands shook as he read it, his face twisting with rage. Good. Rage blinds him, keeps him from seeing the bigger picture. By the time he realizes I'm not the monster he imagines, it'll be too late. Emma's the real challenge. She's not like the others who came before, hikers, thrill-seekers, fools who thought they could conquer the woods. She's methodical, sketching my symbols, searching for patterns. I saw her notebook when she left it on the porch, its pages filled with drawings and notes. She's close to connecting the dots, but she's looking in the wrong direction. She thinks the symbols are a warning, a clue to some dark ritual. They're not. They're anchors, binding the temple's power to the forest, keeping the veil's energy from spilling out. If she figures that out, she could disrupt everything. I need to move faster. Tonight, I'll push them closer to the temple. I've prepared the mill's upper room, where the air grows heavy and the walls hum with the veil's pulse. I've drawn a pentagram on the floor, not for some satanic nonsense, but to focus the energy. I'll let Elliot think it's part of his revenge. Let Emma believe it's the key to her mystery. When they step inside, when her blood touches the stone, the veil will open wide. I'll take what's mine and leave them to the forest's mercy. But I'm not careless. Emma's pendant worries me. It's not just a trinket. It carries a faint hum, like the runes in the temple. I don't know where she got it, but it could shield her from the veil's pull. Maybe even hide her from me. I'll have to be clever, make her trust Elliot, make her think the pendant's power is enough. As for Elliot, his blood is both a gift and a curse. It could open the veil or destroy it. I'll keep him alive until I'm sure, then deal with him. A knife in the dark, a fall from the mill's roof. Accidents are easy to arrange. The forest is restless tonight. I feel it in my bones, a tremor that runs deeper than the wind. The veil is stirring, sensing Emma's presence. I stand at the temple's entrance, my hand tracing the runes. They pulse under my touch, warm and alive. I close my eyes, and the visions come again. Me, standing above a world remade, my pain a distant memory. Emma and Elliot are close now, their footsteps echoing in my mind. I've waited too long for this. They'll come to the temple, and when they do, I'll be ready. I move through the woods, silent as a shadow, placing the final pieces. A new symbol on a tree near the mill, glowing just enough to catch Emma's eye. A whisper in the fog calling Elliot's name. A flicker of light at the temple's edge, faint but undeniable. They'll follow because they can't resist. Curiosity drives Emma, vengeance drives Elliot, and I drive them both. They think they're the hunters, but in Blackthorn Woods, I'm the one who sets the traps. The air in Blackthorn Woods was thick, like breathing through a wet cloth. It was just past midnight, and the moon hung low, casting jagged shadows that seemed to shift when I wasn't looking. My sneakers crunched on dead leaves, the only sound besides my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Elliot walked ahead, his silhouette sharp against the twisted trees, moving with a quiet confidence that made me both trust him and question everything. I clutched the silver pendant around my neck, its cool weight grounding me. Elliot had told me to bring something for protection, and this was all I had. Mom's old gift, etched with a faint spiral I'd never noticed until tonight. I didn't know if it would keep me safe, but I hoped it would at least keep me sane. We'd left Willow Creek behind, sneaking out while Liam slept, his recorder still looping static and whispers on my desk. I'd told him to stay put, but knowing my brother, He was probably plotting to follow us. I pushed the thought away. I had enough to worry about, like the fact that I was following Elliot Hart, a guy I barely knew, into a forest everyone said was cursed. He'd shown up at our house an hour ago, his dark eyes glinting with something urgent. "You want answers?" he'd said, his voice low. "Now's the time. Meet me at the mill." I didn't hesitate. The symbols I'd seen, Tom Grayson's disappearance, Gideon's death, they were all tied to Blackthorn Woods, and Elliot was my only way in. The forest didn't feel like a place anymore. It felt like a living thing. The trees loomed taller than they should, their branches curling like fingers, ready to snatch us. Every few steps I caught a whiff of something acrid, like burnt metal, though there was no fire in sight. I scanned the trunks for the symbols I'd seen before, the 5-pointed stars, the runes, but the darkness hid them. Or maybe they were hiding themselves. "You okay back there?" Elliot called, glancing over his shoulder. His voice was steady, but his hand hovered near the knife, strapped to his belt. "Yeah," I lied, quickening my pace to catch up. This place is creepy as hell." He gave a short laugh, the sound swallowed by the woods. "You get used to it," he said. "Or you don't." I wanted to ask what he meant, but a faint rustle stopped me. I froze, my flashlight beam darting to the underbrush. Nothing. Just the wind, I told myself, but my skin prickled. Elliot's eyes narrowed, scanning the darkness. "Keep moving," he whispered. "We're close." Close to what, he didn't say, but I knew the mill was our first stop, a hulking relic at the edge of the forest's heart. Beyond it lay the temple, the place everyone in Willow Creek feared. I'd read about it in old articles, seen sketches in forgotten blogs. A stone structure, older than the town, buried in vines and rumors. Some called it a shrine to dark gods. Others said it was a gate to somewhere worse. Elliot hadn't mentioned the temple yet, but I saw it in his eyes, the same hunger I felt, the need to know what was out there. The mill came into view, its blackened walls rising like a scar against the night. The wheel turned slowly, creaking despite the dry riverbed below. I stopped, staring. "How's it moving?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Elliot shrugged, but his jaw tightened. "It just does," he said. "Always has." I wanted to press him, but he was already at the door, prying it open with a groan of rusted hinges. The air inside was stale, heavy with dust, and something sharper, like old blood. My flashlight caught glimpses of decay, broken beams, scattered tools, a staircase spiraling into shadow. Elliot led me past it all, his steps sure, like he'd walked this path 1,000 times. "We're not staying here," he said, heading for a back door I hadn't noticed. "The mill's just a waypoint. The real answers are deeper in." I followed, my heart racing. The back door opened to a narrow trail, barely visible under tangled roots. The forest pressed closer here, the trees so dense they blocked the moon. My flashlight flickered, and for a second I swore I saw a figure, just a flash, tall and thin, gone when I blinked. "Did you see that?" I hissed, grabbing Elliot's arm. He stopped, his hand closing over mine, warm and steady. "See what?" he asked, his voice calm but his eyes searching the dark. I shook my head, embarrassed. "Nothing. Let's go." The trail twisted, leading us deeper until the air grew colder, the burnt metal smell stronger. I spotted a symbol at last, carved into a gnarled tree. It glowed faintly, just like before, then faded. I pointed, my breath catching. "There! You see it?" Elliot nodded, his face grim. "They're markers," he said. "They've been here longer than us." He didn't explain, just kept moving, but I pulled out my notebook, sketching the symbol as we walked. It was the same star and runes, but something about it felt alive, like it was watching me back. The whispers started then, soft at first, like leaves brushing together. I thought it was the wind, but the air was still. The sounds grew, forming words I couldn't quite catch. My name, maybe, or something older. I gripped my pendant tighter, its spiral warm against my skin. Elliot didn't seem to hear them, but his pace quickened. "We're almost there," he said, his voice tight. I wanted to ask about the whispers, the symbols, the figure I'd seen, but fear kept my mouth shut. I wasn't just scared of the woods anymore, I was scared of what Elliot wasn't telling me. The temple appeared without warning, a mass of stone and shadow rising from the earth. It was smaller than I'd imagined, but heavier, like it carried the weight of centuries. Vines clung to its walls, weaving through carvings of strange, eyeless faces. The entrance was a black void swallowing my flashlight's beam. I stopped, my legs rooted to the ground. "This is it," Elliot said, turning to me. His eyes were intense, almost feverish. "The temple. Whatever happened to Tom, to my uncle, it started here." I swallowed, my throat dry. "And you think we'll find answers inside?" He nodded, but there was something in his expression, doubt, or maybe fear. "We have to," he said. "But Emma, if you want to turn back, now's the time." I should have listened to the warning in his voice, but I was too far gone. The symbols, the whispers, the pull of the unknown, they'd hooked me. I shook my head, forcing a smile. "I'm not backing out now," I said, stepping toward the entrance. Elliot grabbed my arm, his grip firm. "Stay close," he said, "and keep that pendant on. It's more important than you think." I frowned, but before I could ask, he led me inside. The temple's interior was a maze of stone, the air so cold it burned my lungs. My flashlight caught glimpses of more carvings, spirals, stars, figures with too many limbs. The whispers grew louder, echoing off the walls, and now I was sure they were saying my name. "Emma, come!" I spun, my beam slashing the dark, but there was nothing. Elliot's hand brushed mine, steadying me. "Ignore it," he said. "It's just the woods playing tricks." But his voice shook, and I knew he didn't believe it. We reached a central chamber, vast and silent, with a pentagram etched into the floor. It wasn't chalk, like I'd expected, but carved deep into the stone, its lines filled with something dark, ash, or maybe blood. Candles lined the edges, unlit but warm, like they'd been burning moments ago. My pendant pulsed, a faint heat spreading through my chest. I stepped back, my heart hammering. "What is this place?" I whispered. Elliot knelt by the pentagram, his knife glinting as he traced its lines. "It's a door," he said, his voice low. "To something old, something that took my uncle." He looked up, his eyes locking with mine. "And I need your help to open it." I stared at him, the weight of his words sinking in. Open it? With what? My blood? My life? The whispers surged, drowning out my thoughts, and for a moment I saw it again. The figure, tall and thin, standing at the chamber's edge. Its eyes glowed, not with light, but with hunger. I screamed, dropping my flashlight, and the darkness swallowed us whole. The forest hums with my will, its shadows bending to my design. Emma Carter and Elliot Hart are exactly where I want them, inside the temple, standing on the edge of the pentagram I carved into the stone years ago. I, Silas Varn, at 47, have waited too long for this moment to let it slip. The grey veil is close, its whispers curling through my mind like smoke, promising a life beyond death, a power beyond pain. Emma's blood will open the gateway, and Elliot's will keep it steady. They're my keys, my pawns, and they don't even know it. From the temple's upper ledge, hidden in the dark, I watch them. Emma's flashlight trembles, its beam catching the pentagram's edges, where the stone drinks in the light. Her face is pale, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and defiance. She's stronger than I thought, clutching that damned pendant like it's a shield. It's a problem, that spiral-etched trinket. It hums with an energy I can't place, something older than the temple's runes. I don't know how she got it, but it's keeping her just out of my reach, like a veil of its own. No matter, I've planned for obstacles. She'll bleed soon enough, willingly or not. Elliot kneels by the pentagram, his knife tracing its lines with a reverence he doesn't understand. He's 24, too young to carry the weight of his uncle's mistakes, but old enough to be dangerous. Gideon Hart was my partner once, a greedy fool who thought he could steal the veil's power for himself. He learned the hard way. When you reach into the grey veil, it reaches back. His blood wasn't pure enough to open the gateway, but it tied him to it, and now Elliot carries that tie. I see it in the way he moves, the way his eyes dart to shadows no one else sees. He feels the veil, even if he calls it something else, vengeance, maybe, or justice. It's why I've kept him alive. His blood could stabilize the gateway or destroy it. I'll decide his fate when the time comes. I've played this game carefully, every move calculated. The symbols I carved into the trees weren't warnings. They were lures, glowing just enough to pull Emma's curious mind deeper. The whispers I seeded in the wind weren't random. They were crafted to call her name, to make her feel chosen. The lights I conjured near the temple weren't accidents. They were beacons, guiding her and Elliot to this moment. I even left Gideon's journal in the mill, its pages filled with lies about a demon in the woods. Elliot found it, just as I knew he would, and now he's burning with rage, thinking I'm the monster who killed his uncle. Let him. Anger makes him predictable, keeps him focused on me instead of the veil. Emma's the wild card. She's not like the others who came before, hikers who vanished, thrill-seekers who broke under the forest's weight. At 22, she's sharp, methodical, piecing together clues I didn't expect her to notice. Her notebook, left open on her porch, was a revelation. Pages of sketches, my symbols, the pentagram, even the temple's carvings, paired with notes that cut too close to the truth. She thinks the symbols are a code, a ritual to summon something evil. She's wrong, but not by much. They're anchors, tying the veil's energy to the forest, keeping it contained until I'm ready. If she figures that out, she could unravel everything. I need her to act before she thinks too hard. Tonight, I've set the stage perfectly. The temple's chamber is ready, the pentagram pulsing with the veil's hunger. The candles I placed around it aren't lit, but they hum with heat, waiting for Emma's blood to spark them. I've adjusted the whispers, making them louder, more insistent, calling her to the center. She's already feeling it. I saw her flinch, her hand tightening on that pendant. Elliot's playing his part too, feeding her just enough truth to keep her hooked. He thinks he's using her to get to me, to avenge Gideon. He doesn't know he's delivering her to the veil. The plan is simple, but genius lies in simplicity. Elliot will convince Emma to bleed on the pentagram. He'll call it a ritual to find answers, to face the demon. She'll hesitate. She's not foolish, but her curiosity will win. It always does. When her blood touches the stone, the veil will open, a crack wide enough for me to step through. I'll take the power I've earned, the immortality I've chased since I lost everything, my wife, my daughter, my reason to live. Emma and Elliot will be left behind, their fates irrelevant. If the veil claims them, so be it. If they survive, they'll be too broken to matter. But I'm not arrogant. I've accounted for risks. Emma's pendant is the biggest threat. It's not just a charm, it's a ward, shielding her from the veil's full pull. I felt it when she entered the temple, a ripple that pushed me back. I can't touch her while she wears it, can't force her blood to spill. That's why I need Elliot. He's close to her now, their hands brushing, their eyes locked in that fragile trust. I'll let him do the work, let him coax her into the ritual. If he fails, I have other ways. A shadow in the dark, a whisper too close, fear can make people reckless. Elliot's blood is another variable. It's potent, tied to the veil through Gideon's folly. If he bleeds on the pentagram, it could widen the gateway or collapse it. I've seen it in visions, the veil's warnings. A heart's blood can seal the door forever. That's why I've kept him at arm's length, letting him chase my shadow instead of the truth. But I'm watching him closely. If he steps out of line, if he starts to see the veil for what it is, I'll end him. A blade across the throat, a push into the temple's depths. Blackthorn Woods is good at hiding bodies. The forest is alive tonight, its pulse synced with mine. I feel the veil's hunger, its anticipation. From my perch, I see Emma step closer to the pentagram, her flashlight shaking. Elliot's talking, his voice low, urgent. I can't hear the words, but I know the tone, persuasion, desperation. She's listening, her resolve wavering. Perfect. I shift, silent as the dark, and adjust the whispers. Emma, now! They echo through the chamber, soft but commanding. Her head snaps up, her eyes searching the shadows. She's close, so close. I've waited 20 years for this. The veil took my family, but it gave me purpose. I was a broken man when I found the temple, grieving and lost. The runes spoke to me, showed me a path to outlive my pain. I've sacrificed everything, my humanity, my conscience, my soul, to reach this moment. Emma and Elliot are just tools, means to an end. They think they're fighting a monster, but I'm no demon. I'm a man who refuses to lose. The candles flare suddenly, a faint glow that only I can see. The veil is ready. Emma's hand hovers over the pentagram, her pendant glowing faintly. Elliot's knife is out, its blade catching the light. I hold my breath, my heart pounding. This is it. The moment I've orchestrated, the climax of my perfect plan. They're mine, and the grey veil is mine. Nothing can stop me now. The temple's chamber felt like a tomb, the air so thick it pressed against my chest. My flashlight lay shattered on the stone floor, its beams snuffed out when I'd screamed at the sight of that figure, tall, thin, with eyes that burned like dying stars. It was gone now, vanished into the shadows, but my heart hadn't stopped racing. The pentagram beneath us seemed to breathe, its carved lines glowing faintly, a deep red that pulsed in time with my heartbeat. I clutched my silver pendant, its spiral etching hot against my palm, and tried to focus. Elliot stood beside me, his knife still in hand, his face a mix of determination and something I couldn't read. Fear, maybe, or desperation. The whispers were louder now, a chorus of voices weaving through the dark, calling my name. Emma? Step forward. I took a shaky breath, my eyes darting around the chamber. The stone walls loomed, covered in carvings of twisted figures, creatures with too many limbs, faces without eyes, mouths stretched in silent screams. The candles around the pentagram, unlit but warm, cast no light but seemed to watch us, waiting. My pendant burned hotter, a warning I didn't understand. "Elliot," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the whispers. "What the hell is this place?" He didn't look at me, his gaze fixed on the pentagram. "It's where it all connects," he said, his voice low, urgent. "Tom Grayson, my uncle, the symbols, they all lead here. We need to do this, Emma. We need to open it." "Open what?" I snapped, my fear sharpening into anger. He'd been cryptic all night, leading me through Blackthorn Woods, past the mill, into this nightmare. And now he was talking about opening something without explaining what. His eyes met mine, dark and intense, and for a moment I saw a flicker of doubt. "A door," he said finally. "To the thing that took them. I found Gideon's journal. It said blood could summon it, force it to answer. Your blood, Emma. It has to be you." My stomach dropped. Blood? My blood? I stepped back, my sneakers scraping the stone. "You're kidding, right? You want me to bleed for some ritual?" He moved closer, his knife glinting in the pentagram's glow. "It's not what you think," he said, his voice softer now, almost pleading. "It's not a sacrifice, just a drop to call it out. I've seen what this place can do. It's not just a temple, it's a gateway. We can find out what happened, make it pay." His words were convincing, but his eyes held something else, a shadow of guilt. I gripped my pendant tighter, its heat spreading through my fingers. "And what if it's not that simple?" I asked. "What if this thing, whatever it is, doesn't want to talk?" Elliot hesitated, and in that pause the whispers surged, a wave of sound that made my head throb. "Emma! Now!" I spun, searching the dark, but the chamber was empty except for us. Or was it? The shadows seemed to shift, curling like smoke at the edges of my vision. I swore I saw the figure again, just for a second, standing behind Elliot, its glowing eyes fixed on me. My breath caught, and I stumbled, my back hitting the wall. "There's something here," I gasped. "I saw it again." Elliot's head whipped around, his knife raised, but he saw nothing. "It's the woods," he said, his voice tight. "It messes with your head. Focus, Emma. We're close." Close to what? I wanted to scream, but the pendant's heat was overwhelming now, a steady pulse that matched the pentagram's glow. I looked down at it, the spiral seeming to move, twisting in on itself. My mind raced, piecing together fragments, the symbols in the forest, the mill's turning wheel, the journal Elliot mentioned. He'd said Gideon's notes talked about blood, but how did he know mine was needed? And why did the whispers only call my name, not his? Doubt gnawed at me, but so did curiosity. I'd come this far, risked everything to uncover the truth about Blackthorn Woods. If this ritual could answer my questions, maybe it was worth a try. "Okay," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "What do I do?" Elliot's shoulders relaxed, a flicker of relief crossing his face. He knelt by the pentagram, motioning for me to join him. "Just a cut," he said, holding out his knife. "On your hand, over the center. One drop, that's all." I hesitated, my eyes on the blade. It was old, its handle carved with runes like the ones in the forest. My pendant burned, a warning I couldn't ignore, but I pushed it aside. I'd trusted Elliot this far, through the woods, into the temple. I could trust him now, right? I extended my hand, palm up, and Elliot took it gently, his fingers warm against my skin. His touch sent a shiver through me, a mix of fear and something else I didn't want to name. He pressed the knife to my palm, the blade cold and sharp. "Ready?" he asked, his eyes locked on mine. I nodded, bracing myself. The cut was quick, a sting that made me hiss, and blood welled up, dark against my skin. Elliot guided my hand over the pentagram's center, and a single drop fell, hitting the stone with a sound that echoed like a gunshot. The chamber erupted, the pentagram flared, a crimson light blinding me, and the ground shook, throwing me to my knees. The candles burst into flame, their fire blue and cold, casting shadows that danced like living things. The whispers became a roar, 1,000 voices screaming words I couldn't understand. I clutched my pendant, its heat now afire, and looked at Elliot. He was on his feet, his face pale, his knife raised as if expecting an attack. "It's working!" he shouted, but his voice was drowned out by a new sound, a low, grinding hum like stone scraping stone. The air in the center of the pentagram shimmered, rippling like water, and something stepped through. Not a figure this time, but a man, tall and cloaked in black, his face hidden under a hood. He moved with an unnatural grace, his presence filling the chamber with a weight that crushed my lungs. "Elliot Hart," he said, his voice a deep growl that seemed to come from everywhere. "You dare summon me!" I froze, my blood running cold. This wasn't what I'd expected, not a demon, not a ghost, but something worse, something real. Elliot stepped forward, his knife steady. "You took my uncle," he said, his voice hard. "You're going to answer for it." The man laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. "Gideon was a fool," he said, his hood shifting to reveal a glimpse of a scarred face, eyes glinting like polished stone. "And you're no better, boy. You think you control this place?" He turned his gaze on me, and I swore he saw me, pendant or not. "The girl, though, she's perfect." My heart stopped. Perfect for what? I scrambled to my feet, my cut hand throbbing, the pentagram still glowing beneath me. "Elliot, what's going on?" I demanded, my voice shaking. He didn't answer, his eyes fixed on the man. "Stay back, Emma," he said, but there was a crack in his voice, a hint of panic. The man stepped closer, his cloak trailing shadows that moved on their own. "You've done well, Hart," he said. "Brought her right to me, but you're not needed anymore." Before I could process his words, the man lunged, faster than should have been possible, and tackled Elliot to the ground. The knife skittered across the stone, out of reach. Elliot fought back, his fist slamming into the man's chest, but it was like hitting a wall. I screamed, my mind racing. This wasn't just a ritual, it was a trap, and I'd walked right into it. The whispers surged again, louder, clearer. "Emma, run!" But I couldn't run, not with Elliot pinned, not with the pentagram still burning, not with the truth so close. I dove for the knife, my fingers closing around its handle. The man's head snapped toward me, his eyes boring into mine. "You can't stop this," he said, his voice a hiss. "The Veil wants you." The Veil? My mind flashed to the blog I'd read. The Grey Veil, a place of trapped souls. This wasn't a demon, it was something else, something tied to the temple's runes, to my blood. I gripped the knife, my pendant blazing against my chest. "Emma, do it!" Elliot shouted, his voice strained as he struggled under the man's weight. I didn't think. I lunged, driving the knife into the man's shoulder. He roared, a sound that shook the walls, and his body convulsed, shadows pouring from the wound like smoke. He staggered back, his cloak dissolving, revealing a face twisted with rage and pain. "You'll regret this," he snarled, but his form was fading, breaking apart like ash in the wind. The pentagram's light dimmed, the candles flickered out, and the chamber fell silent, the whispers gone. I dropped the knife, my hands shaking, and ran to Elliot. He was breathing hard, blood trickling from a cut on his brow. "You okay?" I asked, helping him up. He nodded, his eyes wide with shock. "I didn't know," he said, his voice raw. I thought it was just about Gideon." I wanted to believe him, but doubt lingered. He'd known about the blood, the ritual. Had he been using me all along? The temple was still, but the air felt different, heavier, like something was waiting. My pendant cooled, but the spiral glowed faintly, a reminder of its power. I looked at the pentagram, now dark, and felt a chill. We'd stopped the man, or whatever he was, but the veil was still out there, and I had a sinking feeling this wasn't over. The chamber shakes, a low rumble that vibrates through my bones, but it's not triumph I feel. It's fury. Emma Carter's blood has spilled, a single drop igniting the pentagram in a blaze of crimson light, just as I planned. The grey veil is awake, its power surging through the temple's stone, whispering promises of immortality in my mind. But something's wrong. That damned pendant around her neck glows like a beacon, its spiral etching, pulsing with a force that pushes me back, even in my cloaked form. I, Silas Varn, at 47, have orchestrated every detail of this night, yet this girl, this stubborn, infuriating girl, is threatening to ruin it all. From the shadows I watch her, my form still cloaked in the guise I crafted, a hooded figure, scarred and menacing, the demon Elliot Hart thinks he's summoned. It's a lie, of course. I'm no demon, no creature of hell. The temple isn't a shrine to some devil, as Willow Creek's fools believe. It's a gateway, a door to the Grey Veil, a realm where trapped souls linger, their energy ripe for the taking. For 20 years I've studied its runes, carved its symbols, and spilled blood to crack it open. Emma's blood, pure and untainted by prior rituals, was supposed to be the final key. But now, as the pentagram flares and the veil hums, her pendant is fighting me, shielding her from my control. I underestimated her. At 22, Emma is no ordinary prey. She's clever, her mind stitching together clues I thought I'd buried. The glowing symbols, the whispers, the mill's turning wheel. I saw her notebook, its pages filled with sketches that mirror the temple's runes too closely. She's not just curious, she's dangerous, a threat I didn't foresee. When she drove that runed knife into my shoulder, the pain was more than physical. It was a disruption, a crack in the veil's flow. My form wavered, shadows leaking from the wound like blood, and I felt the temple's power falter. She's still standing there, panting, the knife trembling in her hand, her eyes blazing with defiance. Elliot lies at her feet, bloodied but alive, his own role in this farce far from over. Elliot Hart, that reckless 24-year-old, is another mistake I made. I thought I could control him, feed his vengeance with lies about a demon who killed his uncle, Gideon. I left Gideon's journal in the mill, its pages crafted to point him at me, to make him think I was the monster. It worked too well. He brought Emma here, convinced her to bleed, but he's not the puppet I hoped. His blood, tied to the veil through Gideon's failed rituals, is unpredictable. I saw it in the visions the veil sent me. A heart's blood can widen the gateway or seal it forever. When he struggled under my grip, his rage was palpable, but so was his doubt. He's starting to see through my lies, and that makes him a liability. The truth is simpler than they know and more devastating. The temple isn't a place of evil, it's a machine, ancient and precise, built to connect our world to the grey veil. I found it after losing everything, my wife, my daughter, taken by this town's cruelty. The veil spoke to me in visions, offering a way to outlive my grief, to become more than human. All it needed was blood, pure and strong, to open the door. Gideon was my first attempt, but his greed tainted him, and the veil rejected him. He didn't die by my hand, he reached too deep, and the veil consumed him, leaving only whispers. I let Elliot believe I was the killer, let his anger drive him to this moment. But now, with the gateway trembling, I see my error. The veil isn't just a prize, it's a predator, and I've woken it. Emma's pendant is the key to my failure. It's not just a ward, it's a relic, tied to the same ancient power as the temple. I felt it when she entered, a hum that countered the veil's pull. It hid her from me, dulled the whispers I sent to lure her. When she stabbed me, the pendant flared, its spiral glowing like a star, and I knew it's not hers by chance. Someone, her mother perhaps, gave it to her, knowing its power. I should have acted sooner, torn it from her neck before the ritual began. Now it's too late. The veil is open but unstable, its energy lashing out like a storm. I stagger to my feet, my cloaked form flickering as the wound in my shoulder burns. The pentagram's light dims, then flares again, erratic, like a heart struggling to beat. Emma's watching me, her eyes wide but unyielding. Elliot's up now, grabbing his knife, his face a mask of fury. "You're not a demon," he says, his voice low, certain. "What are you?" I laugh, the sound harsh against the stone. "I'm a man who sees what you can't," I say, my voice steady despite the pain. The temple's no shrine, it's a door, and the grey veil lies beyond. Power, eternity, mine for the taking, until you ruined it. Emma steps forward, the knife still in her hand. "The veil," she says, her voice shaking but sharp. "That's what you're after? What is it?" Her question cuts deeper than the blade. She's too close to the truth, piecing together what I've hidden for decades. I straighten, my form solidifying as I draw on the veil's fading energy. "A place of souls," I say, my voice a growl. "Trapped, waiting. Their power can make gods of men, but it needs blood. Yours, girl. You were perfect until that damned pendant." Her hand flies to the pendant, its glow pulsing brighter. "This?" she says, her voice rising. "You're scared of this?" I snarl, lunging forward, but the pendant's light flares, a wall of heat that throws me back. The chamber shakes again, cracks spiderwebbing across the pentagram. The veil is angry, its whispers turning to screams in my mind. I've lost control, and the realization hits like a blade. Emma's not just a key, she's a threat, chosen by forces I don't understand. Elliot charges, his knife aimed at my chest, but I'm faster, sidestepping and grabbing his wrist. "You're nothing, Hart," I hiss, twisting until he drops the blade. "Your uncle tried to take the veil and it broke him. You'll break too." But Emma's moving, circling the pentagram, her eyes on the carved lines. She's thinking, calculating, and I curse myself for underestimating her. "Emma, don't!" I shout, but she's already kneeling, her hand hovering over the pentagram's center. The pendant glows brighter, its light merging with the stone's red pulse. I see it too late. She's not opening the veil, she's closing it. The knife in her hand, the one she stabbed me with, hums with the same energy as her pendant. She drives it into the pentagram's heart, and the chamber explodes in white light. I scream, the veil's power tearing through me, pulling me toward the gateway. No! I roar, clawing at the air, but it's useless. The pentagram cracks, the candles shatter, and the veil collapses, its whispers silenced. I'm thrown back, my form dissolving, my vision fading to black. The last thing I see is Emma, standing over the broken pentagram, her pendant glowing like a star. She's won, but the veil isn't gone. It's waiting, and it knows her now. I'm Silas Varn, and I was so close to eternity. But the truth, the real truth, is that the grey veil isn't just a place. It's alive, and it's chosen her. The temple groaned like a dying beast, its stone walls trembling as cracks snaked across the pentagram at my feet. The blinding white light from my knife's strike faded, leaving only the faint glow of my silver pendant, its spiral etching pulsing softly. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of burnt stone and something sharper, like ozone after a storm. I stood frozen, my hand still gripping the ruined knife, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The cloaked man, Silas Varn or whatever he was, had vanished, his form dissolving into shadows that lingered like a stain on the chamber. The candles were shattered, the whispers silenced, but I wasn't relieved. Something was still here, watching, waiting. Elliot staggered to his feet beside me, his face streaked with blood from a gash on his brow. His dark eyes were wide, a mix of shock and awe, as he stared at the broken pentagram. "You did it," he said, his voice hoarse. "You stopped him." I wanted to believe him, but doubt coiled in my gut. Silas's words echoed in my mind. "The veil wants you." He'd called the temple a gateway, not a shrine, and my blood had opened it, then closed it. Or had it? My pendant cooled against my chest, but the spiral seemed to shimmer like it was alive. I tightened my grip on the knife, my cut palm throbbing. "Did I?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. Or did we just make it worse? Elliot's jaw tightened, and for a moment he looked away, his hands clenching into fists. "I didn't know," he said, his voice low. "Gideon's journal, it said blood would summon the killer. I thought it was him, Silas, some demon. I didn't know about the veil." His words sounded sincere, but I remembered how he'd pushed me to bleed, how he'd known my blood was needed. Had he been playing me, like Silas? I stepped back, the knife still raised, my eyes searching his. "You knew more than you told me," I said. "Why me, Elliot? Why my blood?" He met my gaze, his expression raw, almost pained. "Because you're different," he said. "Gideon wrote about a key, someone untouched by the rituals. I didn't understand until we got here, until I saw your pendant glow. It's not just a charm, Emma, it's tied to this place." His words hit like a punch. "My pendant?" I touched it, its surface warm again, the spiral seeming to pulse under my fingers. My mum had given it to me years ago, saying it was a family heirloom. Had she known? Had she sent me into Blackthorn Woods with a weapon or a curse? Before I could press him, the chamber shook again, a deep rumble that sent dust raining from the ceiling. The cracks in the pentagram widened, and a faint hum filled the air, low and menacing like a heartbeat from the stone itself. I spun, my flashlight long gone, but my pendant's glow cast enough light to see the walls. The carvings, those eyeless, twisted figures, seemed to move, their stone limbs shifting in the shadows. My breath caught, and I grabbed Elliot's arm. "We need to get out," I said, my voice urgent. "Now!" He nodded, but his eyes lingered on the pentagram like he was still searching for answers. "Yeah," he said, but there was a hesitance in his voice, a hunger I didn't trust. We moved toward the chamber's entrance, our footsteps echoing in the silence. The air grew colder, the hum louder, and then I heard it. A voice, not the whispers from before, but a single, clear sound in my mind. "Emma, you're not done." I froze, my heart lurching. The voice was deep, ancient, and not human. It wasn't Silas. It was something else, something from the veil. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, my eyes darting to Elliot. He shook his head, his brow furrowing. "Hear what?" he asked, but his voice was distant, like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. I didn't answer, my mind racing. The voice came again, softer, but insistent. The veil sees you, finish it. Finish what? I'd broken the pentagram, stopped Silas, but the temple felt more alive than ever. My pendant pulsed in time with the hum, and I realized with a chill that it wasn't just a ward, it was a key, just like Elliot said. But a key to what?